Hey, it's Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. Finally getting back into the swing of video production. Um, Sorry, guys, it's just been a rough month with this leg injury, a few other things going on. So today we'll get right back into it. I'm talking about Greyhound, a 2020 film starring Tom Hanks, based on a novel by C.S. Forrester, who you may sound familiar with. He wrote the Horatio Hornblower novels. Well, he wrote this novel as well called The Good Shepherd. I honestly did not know that when I reviewed this movie that it was even based on a book by him, but I got the sense of when watching the film that it was his style, and so when I looked it up, I wasn't surprised. So I have a whole bunch of links to the novel, to the movie, to multiple sources, and now the first thing to put this movie into perspective, I have articles down below about the Battle of the Atlantic. So I have two sets of articles. I have the Britannica article about that, which will give you a broad view, and then I have the U.S. Navy site where they have a lot of sub-articles, including like references to the supply line transport and all that sort of stuff. So if you really want to get into what is depicted in this movie, there's some valuable sources below. Okay, so but let's do it in brief. So what is the Battle of the Atlantic? Well, prior to the U.S. direct involvement in World War II, we were supplying the allies, which were Britain and France, other European powers, as well as China and Russia, with all sorts of stuff. Raw materials, military gear, food, and all that, medical supplies, and that was why, for example, the Japanese were so keen on taking out our naval resources in the World War II in the Pacific, because we were supplying their enemies, right? And of course, the Germans in the Atlantic theater, with their U-boats and which was their primary way of exerting military force, in that theater. And so that was the Battle of the Atlantic, was the efforts by the Germans to sink the supply convoys and the troop transport convoys that were taking gear to to Europe. Okay, and eventually, of course, the U.S. gradually and Britain gradually gained control of the Atlantic well enough to fully allow the U.S. to transport troops over there, and so that again. The gist of my review is not about the Battle of the Atlantic. Talk about the whole other article. I have links below for that stuff. But this movie, I was surprised. I don't remember. I mean, 2020, I guess, was in the middle of the COVID. We're all going through stuff. And I know there's a couple of movies I've enjoyed from the time period of like 2018 to 2022 that I just wasn't aware of consciously back then, right? So this is another one. So I was surprised how much I enjoyed this movie. But again, afterwards, finding out it's based on C.S. Forrester's work, plus starring Tom Hanks, and what it was about, I'm not surprised. So, what is this movie about? Well, this movie is about, it depicts a supply convoy, basically, that a U.S. Navy commander, first promotion to captain, he's not only captain of the vessel, he's captaining, as it were. He's commander of an entire convoy of a naval destroyer group, okay? And they have to protect an allied convoy of ships which are transporting troops and supplies from naval U-boats, okay? Now, I'm not as up on all of the military stuff in terms of, I can't tell you that was a PT-402 cruiser versus a MX-DD9. I can't do that, okay? I'm giving you some information straight from the Wikipedia on this one. So, this convoy had 37 merchant and troop ships, and it was set out for Liverpool. I keep saying that word, and I got to stop that. All right, and they were heading through the Mid-Atlantic Gap, where they were out of the range of the air cover. Now, why is air cover important? Because back then, submarines basically had a surface or come very close to surface to sink, so airplanes could sight them and knock them out, and make it easier for the ships as well to knock them out. Right. So, I mean, now in the modern era, submarines can sink you from 1 kilometer down, with the way torpedoes work. Or even under, or long range with missiles, well out of range. But so the escorts, the Fletcher-class destroyer, the USS Keeling, and that's what gives the movie the name. Its radio call sign was the Greyhound, and that was the character played by Tom Hanks commanding that ship. It was Ernest Krause. Then there was a British tribal-class destroyer, the HMS James, whose call sign was Harry, so if you hear that in there. A Polish Grom-class destroyer, ORP Victor, call sign Eagle, and the Canadian Flowercrest corvette, the HMCS Dodge, call sign Dickey. So he had 4 vessels. I had an impression the movie actually had more than 4 vessels, like 5, 6 or 7, but whatever. And this movie is almost real time in the sense, it's not quite real time, but it's very, it gets you into it. It's like you're when you. It feels like you're in real time when the events are happening, right? Even though there are time skips in the events themselves. Obviously, like what takes a 5-minute battle on screen, in reality, right, would have taken an hour or 2 with all the ship maneuvering and things like that. So maybe even longer. So the movie does a great job of drawing you in and making you feel like you're really there. Now, Tom Hanks does his this is why I wasn't sure I would really enjoy this at first, because Tom Hanks tends in these war movies to play a similar character every time, but he's learned in all these movies that his job is to be the straight man, so to speak, to get you through the movie so you can experience it and in other words, he's not lead acting in the sense he's carrying the movie. He's lead acting in a way of he's carrying through the story of the movie so you can experience it. That's why Saving Private Ryan was so great, even though there are quibbles over historical accuracy and blah blah blah. His character carried you from scene to scene so you could experience the realism that Steven Spielberg in particular aimed for with that. And the same is true of this movie as well, right? Hell, the same was true of Forrest Gump if you think about it. Okay, so let's get into it. Hopefully they won't copyright claim me. Now this movie has a very dark sort of overtone to it. Even when there's daylight, I guess they use storms and clouds and all that to, I mean, the cinematography is beautiful. I don't know if these are special effects. Obviously, we don't have all these World War II ships and planes anymore, so a high percentage is probably special effects. But I wonder if what they did was take, like, 1 or 2... We do have some of these old ships that are used as museums and whatever. Did they maybe take one out on the water, record that, then fill in the rest with special effects to give you... Because they look beautiful, okay? Whatever Hanks is doing with his team in these World War II things, he's involved with Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Masters of the Air. This movie has Ryan, him and Spielberg. They have great wartime special effects. So, that's something to be applauded. And it gets you right into it. Like, it's early on the colors are very very vibrant, right? So that gets Tom and his woman. Now once Tom gets to the ship, Captain Krause, you see that the color palette starts to get a little more, like, not depressed, but down. So it gets you into the sort of, like, something real is going on. And there's danger. It's not a lot of happiness there. Now where it's safer, they have the bright colors illuminated again. Because I believe that they do show us on the U-boats, so which is pretty cool. And obviously... Nowadays, we'd have modern radio communications, which would allow this coordination a lot better. But amazing for what they had. And Forrester was great at having realism in his novels, while having the heroicness of the heroes still being a bit over the top, right? So there is some over the top with this Krause guy, right? You'll see as it goes on, but not to the point of taking you out of the story, Like, this would all be like a digital readout in the modern era. Now, I wonder if they also intermixed some, like, old footage, live footage, or took old live footage and then digitized that to make some of the gunnery shots. The tension of this scene, they know there's a ship out there, an enemy. They're trying to find them, trying to sight them without getting caught themselves. It's a beautifully tense scene. And again, he has to run out to see himself because he has no long range way of monitoring. Now this is cool. Okay, can't say how I got into this, but I was involved in some computer simulations of military events at sea many years ago, and something that most people don't know, which modern movies, war movies or not, don't very rarely accurately depict the ocean. Right? the ocean looks flat like when you're at the beach or whatever, but it's not. Those waves have 10, 20, sometimes 200-300 foot peaks and valleys, and like those, this movie does a great job at depicting the peaks and valleys in the ocean waves, so you can see that it's not a flat plane anymore, you know, and so this comes up later in some scenes. Hopefully I'll catch a few of them when they get to the really tense battle scenes. That I believe was a sunk ship. And again, now they're inside. It's safer again, so the color will warm up, calming you down with the troopers and the sailors. Outside, danger. You can see where the enemy. Look at the rough seas, the beautifully animated rough seas. There's a U-boat surfacing. Beautiful work done by the animators. Now this has been about 35 minutes of movie time, of which about 15 or 20 has been the naval battle, right? But in the real world, that battle, they would have been doing that for close to probably 5 or 6 hours, right? Where, given how vast the ocean is and all those sort of effects. So this movie does a great job of getting you into it, even though the events are in fact longer than the movie could depict. It gets you into the mix of it. So the Germans got one of the vessels they were trying to protect. Now, there's a constant battle, by the way. Like we largely get one or two U-boats that the Greyhound is dealing with. But you'll hear in the background that the other escort vessels are fighting the Germans as well, right? Well, I believe that I want to say there's like at least 8 German submarines in this wolf pack that's hunting them. By the way, full spoilers if you haven't. Look at the beautiful work on these fights. I mean, you got the burning ship. This is amazing work. Now that detail I just sort of glossed over here. If I can catch it again, they do show you the recovery from the damage that the ship takes, even incidental damages, and so again, it keeps you in. It keeps you that something. It creates a sort of false realism that keeps you involved. That's why this, you know. And oh, this is a nice shot. Let's go back and let's get it again. So I'm sure I'm going to get copyright dinged. So you're probably going to see it on Rumble, but see if they show it. I wonder if I could. Yeah. So that shot is cool because it's like a shark. You know what I mean? Like how a shark fin rises out of the water. So I think they're going for that deliberate like sense of dread a shark would give you that we're used to from like movies like Jaws, and they're kind of borrowing that for the ship rising out of the water part. And I thought that was cool. Look how well those ships are animated, and that the close pass. I want to see if I can catch it. Yeah, you know. So now this is how the fights would be. You know, you have the Germans are surfacing, they're shooting at them, they're shooting at the Germans. You know. Now there's a lull between the storm. Now what the scene here again, they pay attention to the small details. There's a name for it. When the captain has a personal kind of valet in the Navy, it's usually like an enlisted man who's his number one job is to make sure the captain is fed, to make sure because the captain has all that weight on him, so he keeps the captain's cabin organized. You know, he makes sure he brings him the meals. He's supposed to be on top of the captain. Make sure he's the captain. You got to be eating the food, you know, because we need you to be our commander. So it's a special relationship the cabin has with that guy, and I know the British have a particular in England, or it used to be a particular appointment, right? Whereas in America, I think it's just in a regular rotating assignment. You know. And another thing, detail that gets lost here, these guys look like a lot of times when they film these period pieces, the actors they don't pay enough attention to the actors, how the hairstyle would be, how the clothing would sit on them, and all that. Like so, like in a more modern time, even in the military sense, the uniforms are a bit more baggy, which I think is for functionality more than anything. You know, so whereas the uniforms back then, the shipboard, like the ones they'd be wearing on shipboard, will be a little more trim, you know, so to speak. There's a funeral for the. So I was saying the captain's like valet is the wrong word, but the guy who was responsible for serving the captain, keeping him keeping him in shape and all, he died because he went in and helped out with the battle, he was killed, and the captain and so now he's the captain giving a particular funeral for all the men who died in the battle. And the naval barrel at sea. Okay, the second battle, by the way, the number one thing is what makes this movie great. It would have been a good movie, but this third, I think technically it's the third battle. It makes the whole movie, right? If this battle had not been as good, now they finally they're in range of air cover. So what they did was, they decided they had been zigzagging and trying to dodge, so that it was hard for the Germans to lock onto them, but they to find them basically, because not so much lock onto them, but they were running out of fuel, they were running out of supplies and weapons. So they said, okay, if we sprint hard, yeah, they'll probably find us, but we'll be under air cover in less than 24 hours, and the air cover dramatically improves the ability to protect the boats, right? So they took a chance. They were in that intense battle, but they got through to the air cover. That was a big thing, and it was worth it. And just what they're doing here helps the ship aim better. You know, targets the vessel. And now they made it. This is a great scene where they know a great Greyhound wanted to escort the vessels all the way in, even though they're wounded, because it's his responsibility. But the relieving vessels came out and said, "No, you go to port. You had to do." And all the hear me getting touching up with this, because I had relatives who had to go through this, who had to be on ships that were escorted over by these brave naval men and men, and who will be dead. Some of them, I mean, like my grandpa went over on a ship, obviously, for D-Day and all, and I remember him saying way back that he had a couple friends who died when their ships were sunk. You know, so they're, you know, and that means a whole generation of families are lost, and my family gets to continue. My grandpa come back to marry my grandma and all that, and these troops are giving their thanks for that. That was a great moment to include in this movie. Now, so that's the battle is over, and that's the Greyhound, and there are a couple of survived. I believe two of the escorts on Greyhound survived, and at the end they have some great real time footage from back then. Now I want to try to highlight one thing, if I can catch it. It's in the final of the second battle. It's part of what makes this second battle so great. And I mentioned it. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we see it. So you see how the ship is hard turning in the water there? That's realistic. In other words, like a lot of modern won't even show the what they're doing is they're trying to take advantage of the swells to protect them from the German attack, by having the swell up, which would absorb the impact of the guns on them. Then as they come out of the swell, see the swell goes down and up. They're riding the swells, right? They're trying to time it so that the swell protects them, but they get their volley off. Look at the angle. I mean, that is an amazing, I guess you would say, CGI work at this point. This movie's filled with that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's you can tell by my voice, I really like this movie. Okay, I was surprised by how much I liked this movie, to the point that, I think I watched parts of it again, because I watched it the first time like 2-3 weeks ago. Then I remember watching parts of it again, the parts I enjoyed a lot, and I probably wind up watching it again by the end of the year. It's such an enjoyable film, and obviously it hits close to home because of my relatives in World War II and all that. But they did so well. Now let's see who did the work here on this movie. Let's do a little. Normally I would end the review, but there we go. Now we want to go to not this one, obviously. Properties. Greyhound film. This one. Okay. So this is let's see. So our director was Aaron Schneider, this guy. Two soldiers. Okay, let's see what his filmography is. Dead Girl. This is the cinematography. Good work there, I believe. Murder One. So he was on. He directed the episode. No, what did he do? So he was a cinematographer on Supernatural. Okay. Director. Oh, so he hasn't done a lot of work. Okay. So we have to pay attention to this guy. He did a great job on this. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Obviously, our stars are Tom Hanks. I mean, he is the name star, so he's the one. He's a significant guy. You know what I mean? Like all the other guys are just regular movie stars, so to speak. No one. His performance is, like I said, it's the key, in the sense that not that he carries the film by himself, but he carries you through the movie. So there we go. In any case, how long are we going here? 22. Just hope I didn't rush through this. Again, this earned an Academy Award for Best Sound. You can see that on the screen now. It's on Apple TV right now, so you can all check that out. I wish more war movies were good like this one. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Anyway, that's been my review of Greyhound. I would call it a 9 out of 10. Maybe a 9.5 out of 10. In fact, it's in my top 20 war movies of all time, for sure. Okay? So, have a great week. I will be up with more content sooner rather than later. Enjoy yourself. Go check this movie out. Thank you.